Part 97. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 970. Latest website. While chatting all the way, Lu Feng vowed to help them get their wages back, and boasted that he had relatives in his family who were officials and earned this amount of money. With these assurances, Hao Lu and the others laughed with confidence, and the atmosphere was not so stiff. When they arrived at the temporary workshed at the construction site, everyone was busy unloading the goods. There was a temporary canteen here with everything available, and they started to cook. "Thank you, boss. There are still many good people in this world. Smoking is bad, don't be offended." Everyone took out their cigarettes and handed them to Lu Feng. After a while, Lu Feng had a bunch of various cigarettes in his hand. Okay, thank you everyone, I can't finish all of them," Lu Feng said and took a look at their dormitory. The accommodation environment was really hard to describe. The sun has risen and it's not as cold as in the morning. A group of people are standing outside chatting. When they hear that they can get their wages back 100%, they all have smiles on their faces. Different from the construction sites many years later, young people now make up the majority of the construction sites. Most of them are young people in their 20s, and some are just adults like Xiao Henan. "Brother Lu, this is my brother." Nicknamed Lao Shui, Xiao Henan introduced a young man to Lu Feng. He was about 1.8 meters tall, with a Chinese character face, a bit naive, wearing a pair of jeans, and a wash shirt on his upper body. The yellowed Chen Liang shirt is not too cold. The collar of the shirt is still standing up, which looks very cool. Hello, Lu Feng shook hands with him. The old commander looked a little reserved and shook hands with Lu Feng embarrassedly. "Isn't it cold if you wear something like this?" Young man, not married yet, very strong, and uncle next to him smoked the pipe. "That's not true. Do you think you let these old ladies suck them all dry?" Ha 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 ha. Everyone burst into laughter. The people here are relatively simple. Although their words are rough, they are easy to integrate into. They may have some small thoughts, but they definitely don't have so many messy rules and regulations. Lu Feng looked at the handsome man and couldn't help but joked, "The handsome man is so cool, I guess he has no shortage of partners." "What?" The old man took a step back in embarrassment. "The youngest person on the construction site is Aunt Wang in the cafeteria." "Aunt Wang is willing, but he is not," Hao Liu said jokingly. Laughter continued at the scene, and Lu Feng asked everyone, "If you get paid now and go home for the new year, what are you going to buy?" "I don't have anything to buy, just give it to my wife and children. Go back and make money. Those of us who have families, it's not our turn to spend the money. Unlike young people like Lao Shui, who have made money and have to go to the back alleys anyway. Then we have to send it out quickly, otherwise all the streets will be closed and we'll have to go home for the new year. Young people, there is no use asking for money, they just eat, drink and whore." Lu Feng stood there and was amused by them, and said to the old commander, "Good young man, I don't want to gamble, that's good." Amidst bursts of laughter, the food was already cooked. It was unknown how long it had been since everyone had eaten a good meal. Today they were cooking a big pot of rice, with pork, cabbage, potatoes, and vermicelli simmered in one pot. Lu Feng held 2 steamed buns in his hand and ate with his head down. I don't know whether it was because there were so many people or because the big pot of food was really good, but Lu Feng had a huge appetite. "Besides Mr. Sun, which other department can ask them for salary?" Lu Feng asked Hao Lu. The old commander sat across from Lu Feng and ate voraciously. He raised his head and said, "They are a subordinate company. You can report complaints to their superiors. We also went there, and they ignored you at all." "Okay, I'll complain in the afternoon," Lu Feng said solemnly. Lu Feng wanted to see how bad this line was. Of course he knew how these people behaved when facing the people below, but faces are faces, and if you have an ugly face, you have to do something. If you have an ugly face, you still have to do something. The bottom is rotten. Jia Feng's bankruptcy is also on the agenda. After dinner, Lu Feng led a group of people to Jia Feng Electronics Factory. For fear of being recognized, Lu Feng even put on a mask. When he arrived at the place, he was stopped at the door by security guards. If we don't all go in, we'll go in and find a few leaders to report something, Lu Feng said to the security guards. Get out. One of the security guards pointed his finger at Lu Feng and said, don't you understand, people? Get away. Okay. Why are you watchdogs so arrogant? Hao Lu couldn't help but curse. Who are you scolding? Why don't you curse again? The two sides were about to have a conflict, and a few of them who wanted to cause trouble hurriedly stuffed their cigarettes, but they still refused to let in. Lu Feng turned around and said to Lao Shui, Xiao Henan, and the others, don't yell at them, climb over the wall. Don't look at the banners hanging at the door. When Lu Feng came, and various leaders standing in the cold wind waiting. These are not the benefits that ordinary people can have, and what Lu Feng is experiencing now is exactly what ordinary people will experience now. He just lost his identity and came to a more real world. A group of people in front were arguing with the security guard. Lu Feng and Hao Liu's group ran to the side wall. Hao Lu was holding them below. Xiao Henan climbed up first, and then Lu Feng stepped on Hao Liu's shoulders and was pulled up by Xiao Henan. After a lot of struggling, the 5 people finally climbed over the wall and got in. Let's go in and ask. Lu Feng patted the dirt on his body and walked inside. There were many people coming in and out of the office building. Lu Feng led 4 people upstairs. There were rows of offices inside, with the names of each department written on the door numbers. That's it, the old handsome man pointed to a door in front, which said General Department. Lu Feng walked over and knocked on the door, and a voice came from inside, come in. I pushed the door open and walked in. Inside, there were 7 or 80 square meters, with tables of various sizes. People sitting on the 20th were chatting. 4 or 5 people gathered together, and they were excited when they were happy. A direct shot of the thigh. A man in his 30s saw Lu Feng and others walking in, glanced at them, and asked nonchalantly, what's going on? Who is your person in charge? Lu Feng asked. Why are you looking for the person in charge? Just tell me what you want. When you come in, you will be responsible for the person in charge. The person in charge is responsible. The man didn't even look at Lu Feng. He held a newspaper in his hand and pointed his ear towards the direction where everyone was chatting. Listen. Hello, leader, we are workers at the construction site. Oh shit! Before Hao Lu could finish speaking, the man's face was full of impatience. He threw the newspaper in his hand on the table and said with a bit of scolding in his tone, it's over. Do you want a salary? I get your salary. We don't care about paying you. Then who's responsible for the payment? Mr. Son of the subordinate company doesn't pay his salary. Do you care about it? Lu Feng asked him. Mr. Sun won't pay your salary. What are you doing with me? I'll pay you out of my pocket. That's so humming funny. The male protagonist leaned on the chair and stared at Lu Feng. This man was talking to him just now. There was a question in his tone, and he stared at Lu Feng and said, please pay more attention to what you say in the future. If you come to ask me, who am I going to ask? As your subordinate company, you should have the responsibility of supervision and urging him to advance this matter. You are the person in charge here, right? What is your name? Lu Feng asked. What's your name? What do you want? Who do you have the right to ask me? Let me tell you, this is a comprehensive department. For money matters, go to the finance department. The man's voice was full of impatience. Please help me, we are really. Xiao Henan was so anxious that he almost cried. Didn't I tell you already? Go to finance. Why are you still here? Okay, I'll go to the finance department. Lu Feng turned around and left. There was still chatter and laughter in the room. After going up to the second floor, I finally found the finance department. I knocked on the door and walked in. This room was larger than before, and the decoration was very good. There was carpet on the floor. There were 30 or 40 people inside, who looked very nervous and busy. What are you doing? We won't reimburse you now. Don't ask us for a salary increase. Let your department leaders write a note and supervisors at all levels sign it, a man in his 50s said without raising his head. We are workers at a construction site. Your subsidiary company, Mr. Sun, does not pay wages. How to solve this problem? Lu Feng asked the man, who is the person in charge of your department. The man raised his head and glanced at Lu Feng and the others, frowned a little and said, it doesn't pay wages, and it's not under the financial management of the factory. You go find the finance of the subordinate company. Now people don't pay wages. As an upstream company, you have the right to supervise. I just want to know who can control Mr. Sun. Lu Feng's voice was full of anger. Are you angry with me? Do I care? You go to the general department, they will take care of everything, the man said and waved his hand to drive them away. The general department asked us to come to you. Then you go to the factory director's office and the director of the factory director's office. Don't tell me that I asked you to find it. Just go and stalk him. Go ahead. After the man finished speaking, he turned towards people around me, asked, what level does this 12 million bonus go to? How many people are there? There is no list. Starting from Mr. Zhang, no more than 20 people will be required. This matter will not be disclosed to outsiders. You can arrange it in the account. Lu Feng looked at these people, walked away, went up another floor, found the factory director's office, and knocked on the door. It was even more spacious inside, covering hundreds of square meters, with carpets and leather sofas, and 3 people sitting inside. Among the 4 men, one of them was Mr. Sun, whom he met in the morning. Mr. Sun was polite to a middle-aged man. There were fruits and tea on the table, which looked very high-end. What's wrong with you? The middle-aged man asked. Let's find the director of the factory director's office, Lu Feng said to him. That's me. What's the matter? Mr. Sun obviously recognized them and knew what these people were here for. He crossed his legs and snorted disdainfully. He wanted to see if these people dared to speak like this here. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 971. Latest website. Lu Feng saw that Mr. Sun was also there. It was obvious that this was no longer his own business. Someone above had instructed him to do this. As for whose pocket the money of these migrant workers went into, he didn't know. Mr. Sun was leaning on the sofa and smoking a cigarette, looking at these people with a playful expression, like a cat looking at a mouse. They are the construction workers of the first phase of the project. Now the first phase of the project has been completed, but the wages have not been paid. Since Mr. Sun is here, let me give you an explanation today, Lu Feng said to him. The office director leaned on the sofa and glanced at Mr. Sun, and said casually, this matter is not under the control of the factory director's office. You can go to the general department and ask them to write a note to prove it. Prove what? Lu Feng asked the 2 of them. Prove that they worked? Or prove that the first phase of the project was not completed? How are you talking? Do you see the leader in your eyes? The office director stood up and shouted, get out of here. Leader, don't be angry. He is young and doesn't know how to speak. How Lu hurriedly took a step forward, hunched over slightly, with fear on his face, and hurriedly defended, we just finished the work and we don't have any wages. You have to pay for traveling home during the Chinese New Year, don't you think? You pity us, you can just give us a little first. Hao Liu's words made the director's face soften a little. He sat down and lit a cigarette and said, "For this matter, first go to the general department to sign a note, and then go to the finance department to sign. Every company has procedures, you know. The general department is assigned to finance, and the finance department is assigned to you. Who among you has the final say?" Lu Feng said to him. "How about we bring the three departments together to confirm each other?" "You'd better shut up." "Is it your turn to speak?" the director scolded. The director glanced at Mr. Sun next to him and asked, "What's going on?" "It's not that they won't be paid, but the quality is not up to standard. No matter where you go to work, you have to do the work well." The supervisor said that there are many areas that are unqualified and cannot be inspected for acceptance. Mr. Sun said lightly. "Boss, what you said is unfair to us. This work is all done in real time. Besides, we all worked according to the plan. There were no problems during the acceptance inspection. The house is also in good condition now." "How can you say that?" Unqualified Xiao Henan felt unspeakably aggrieved and said with red eyes, "You are not such a bully." When Mr. Sun saw Xiao Henan crying, he snorted and said, "It's not me who bullied you, a kid. I didn't say it was unqualified. It was the supervisor who said it. I'm going to call someone over now." Mr. Sun picked up the phone on the table, pressed the number, and said to the phone, "Lao Li, come up here." Putting down the phone, Mr. Sun took a long puff of cigarette and continued, "I told you, be good and don't make trouble. I'm in a good mood, and I might give you a salary. If I'm in a bad mood, I won't get a dime." Hao Lu and Xiao Henan have already tried their best. They don't dare to offend Mr. Sunday. If someone is unhappy and refuses to give, then there is nothing they can do. As long as he dares to force himself, the salary issue will not be postponed until today. In less than a minute, a man in his 30s walked up. He was about 1.75 meters tall and wore a pair of glasses. He was dressed very elegantly, but the area between his eyebrows gave people a sinister look. "Mr. Sun, are you looking for me?" Li Zhaiki glanced at Lu Feng and the others standing at the door, and he had the same guess. "Tell them how the job went." Mr. Sun waved his hand. Li Zhaiki turned back to look at Hao Lu and the others and asked, "What do you mean?" "We want wages, but now we don't get a penny," Hao Lu said with some fear. "You still have the humming nerve to ask for wages. Did you know that the work you did was not up to standard? It's a good thing that I didn't make you pay any money, so why do you still have the nerve?" "Who let you in?" Li Zhaiki scolded. Lu Feng looked at Li Zhaiki in front of him. If he guessed correctly, the man in front of him should be the brother-in-law mentioned by teacher Duo Duo. "Let me ask you, how did you check and accept the project if the quality was not up to standard? In other words, the entire factory is now a garbage project, right?" Lu Feng asked. "Who the hell are you? It's your turn to ask me? Go the hell away. I tell you, if you want a salary, just be content. If you do this, you won't get a penny." Li Zhaiki said to Lu Feng and the others, "Do you understand? Hao Lu and the others are already homeless. People say that unless they really don't want their wages, they are afraid that everyone will be paid by then. Without them, this kind of thing is not impossible." "Li Zhaiki, let me ask you, have there been fights and deaths on construction sites before?" Lu Feng asked him. "You ask me? What qualifications do you have to ask me? Isn't it normal for someone to die on a construction site? Are you one of our workers?" Li Zhaiki looked at Lu Feng and felt that he didn't look like a worker. His tone is different from others. "Let me ask you if you understand. In other words, people did die. Also, this project was won by a state-owned construction company. Why was it returned to a subsidiary company? Did the subsidiary company report it? Does the group headquarters know about it? Who approved it?" Lu Feng asked. As soon as these words came out, not to mention Li Zhaiki, Even Mr. Sun and the director who were sitting aside were shocked. They felt like they were being held accountable by the leader, and their expressions changed after they reacted. The director stared at Lu Feng and said solemnly, "Who are you threatening?" "I'm not threatening anyone, I'm just asking about this matter. Does the group headquarters know about it?" "Who did it?" Lu Feng looked at him and said, "Looking at your state, you probably don't know. You guys did it in private. So what if you know? So what if you don't know? Why, you want to file a lawsuit?" The director smiled disdainfully and said, "I'm just telling you where the headquarters is. You can go ahead and file a lawsuit. If you can file a lawsuit, I walked head first." "Ha ha ha ha," Mr. Sun sat aside and laughed. An ordinary person actually wanted to sue them. Even if there was ironclad evidence, he couldn't. "I'm warning you, since you are not a worker here, at least stay out of these things, otherwise I will have 100 ways to play with you." "Believe it or not," the director said coldly. "I believe that you do have this kind of ability, otherwise you wouldn't be so arrogant. Since you are not afraid, let's speak out." "Who is taking the lead in this matter?" Lu Feng asked. "What the hell does it have to do with you? Get out of here." The director was already a little impatient and said to Li Zhaiki, "Call the security to get out." "Get out." Li Zhaiki reached out and pushed Hao Lu and others out of the door. Several people were pushed out of the office. Before they could go downstairs, the security guards rushed in. They rushed out cursing and were kicked out of the factory gate. Hao Lu walked out of the factory gate and squatted on the roadside looking particularly depressed. Others were also rushed aside and hurriedly surrounded them when they came out. "How's it going? Have you found the leader? What do you say? When will you give it?" Everyone was talking, and their words were full of anxiety. Hao Lu looked at Lu Feng helplessly and said, "Brother, you can't ask for it like this. We are grandsons and we can't speak arrogantly. We have to beg others, otherwise they will make excuses. Saying you are unqualified has many reasons." Xiao Henan stood there silently, but in his heart he felt that Lu Feng was a little unreliable, and in this way he offended the leader again. The old handsome man was still the same, standing there adjusting his clothes and smoking a cigarette. "The money is yours to begin with, why do you have to be so humble when you get your money back?" Lu Feng took off his mask and said, "That's not reasonable. Don't worry, I will definitely get it back for you in these 3 to 5 days." Everyone originally had high hopes for this young man, thinking that he knew some powerful person, but as he continued to act like this, people became even more disgusted, and maybe the decision was delayed even further. "It's getting late, let's go back to eat first." Lu Feng looked at the sun that was about to set on the horizon, and was about to go back to the hotel. A group of people sighed, looking a little discouraged, but fortunately they no longer had to eat boiled noodles, which was a blessing in misfortune. After Lu Feng left, the director leaned on the sofa, looked at Mr. Sun and Li Zhaiki, and said, "Let me tell you too, these troublemakers should be put to rest as soon as possible. If they continue to make trouble, Mr. Zhang will not be happy. Don't worry, Director Li, I've been trying to find a way to get them home recently." After finishing speaking, Mr. Sun said thoughtfully, "The bonus at the end of the year. Don't worry, it's your job, so just go ahead and do it boldly. Mr. Zhang will take care of it for you." "Okay," Director Li said and raised his eyebrows. "Clear." After Director Li left, Mr. Sun stood up and said to Li Zhaiki, "Find some people tomorrow to drive these people out of the temporary sheds on the construction site. If they have a place to live, they will always live there and cause trouble, you know. By the way, the one who took the lead in causing trouble today, teach him a lesson and tell him not to try to get ahead of everything." "Okay, don't worry, I will definitely handle this matter," Li Zhaiki readily agreed and said to Mr. Sun, "As for the supervision of the second phase of the project next year, do you think I am suitable?" "It's appropriate." "Why isn't it appropriate?" You are my right-hand man now. If anyone says it's inappropriate, then he is very inappropriate, Mr. Sun said with a smile. Ha 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 ha, Mr. Sun, you are really wise and discerning. I will follow your lead from now on. Li's Heike flattered him. It's almost the Chinese New Year. I've prepared some small seafood for you and will put it in your car later. Superior. Okay, it just so happens that my family likes to eat, Mr. Sun said and walked out of the door. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 972. Latest website. In the evening, in the hospital, Wang Huimei, the mother of a female teacher, helped her daughter go through the discharge procedures and was busy until dinner time. Back in the ward, Wang Huimei sat down and sighed. I don't know if the boss your sister found is reliable or not. It's been a few days and there's not even any news. Don't forget it. The female teacher's sister sat beside the bed and said, how about making a phone call and asking again? They said they can't be discharged from the hospital now, and they have to rush early tomorrow. I'll call and ask first. This girl is the same. She's not reliable at all, Wang Huimei muttered and walked out. When I got to the phone booth, I called the school. A few minutes later, the female teacher was called over. Hey, Mom, how is my sister? The female teacher asked worriedly. You can be discharged tomorrow. What's going on with the boss you're looking for? There's no movement at all now. You have to force him. His child is in your class. How can he not listen to you? On the other end of the phone the voice was a little harsh. Hurry up. Okay. The female teacher hung up the phone and called Zhang Xiaoyan. Hello, is this Duoduo's mother? Hello, I'm Duoduo's class teacher, the female teacher said into the phone. Teacher, what's going on? Duoduo got into trouble again. Zhang Xiaoyan frowned and looked back at Duoduo, who was doing his homework. Duoduo felt a chill on his back, raised his head and met Zhang Xiaoyan's eyes, forcing out a cute smile. No, Duoduo has been very good recently. Didn't I ask Mr. Lu to do something last time? My sister is really... Oh, Zhang Xiaoyan thought about it. In fact, she was not very happy about this matter. Enterprises are about management, not just to solve problems when they arise. What's more, as a teacher in Duoduo, it is inherently inappropriate to raise such a thing. It's hard to say no. In any case, when your child is in the hands of others, the most difficult people to reject in your life are one is a teacher and the other is a doctor. Don't worry, Duoduo's father has gone to Tianjin. This matter must have an outcome. This child is quite naughty and will take the exam soon. I hope you will worry more about it, Zhang Xiaoyan said politely. No problem, this is what it should be. Besides, Duoduo is a smart kid, so there's no need to worry about it. The female teacher hesitated and said, how about you give me Mr. Lu's contact information? My mother is worried. I hope you can understand, it is not easy to have such an opportunity. For my family, this is almost like the sky is falling. Zhang Xiaoyan has experienced a lot in the business world in the past 2 years, but she still has a touch of softness deep in her heart. She didn't know Lu Feng's contact information in Tianjin, so she had to call Wei Yandan first and get the contact information through the company. Female teacher. After Wang Huimei got the phone number, she copied it down on paper and couldn't wait to call. However, no one answered several times. The front desk told her to wait until Mr. Lu came back and tell her as soon as possible. Lu Feng was having dinner with a group of migrant workers at the construction site. It was still stewed in a big pot. Lu Feng was holding a small aluminum basin and wolfing down the food. Hao Lu, Xiao Henan, and Lao Shui looked at the way he was eating. If Lu Feng hadn't paid for so many things, they would have suspected that this was a starving ghost who came to trick them. What should we do tomorrow? Lu Feng put down the rice bowl and burped, then smacked his mouth and said, the big pot dish is really good, much better than that bullshit Michelin. Xiao Henan could tell that Lu Feng seemed to have seen the big world outside, and today he was seeing big scenes, big leaders, and Lu Feng had so many faces that he didn't have stage fright at all. Michelin, what is it? Xiao Henan asked curiously. Tires, Lu Feng made a random joke and continued, don't worry about the salary. It's just a matter of these 2 days. Aren't they afraid that we will make trouble? The more afraid they are, the more trouble they will make. Today we will make trouble when we get to the director of the factory director's office, tomorrow we will go to the factory director and the general manager to make trouble, and I want to see who we can push it to in the end. Everyone looked at each other when they heard this. How can I get paid like this? Why do you feel like you want to offend the entire GFN Electronics boss? If you really offend, they won't give you the salary that they originally planned to give you. It is normal for everyone to have this kind of mentality, just like someone who owes money. They are afraid that if they say something unpleasant, the other party will not pay back the money. In the end, the person who owes money becomes the grandfather, and the person who borrowed the money becomes the grandson. Seeing that everyone was silent, Lu Feng said to everyone, don't worry, if I don't make money, I swear I won't be a human being. Moreover, my time is tight for these 2 days. Everyone, eat and drink, relax and follow me tomorrow, that's it. Then you should go to bed early. Do we need to make a shop here for you? Hao Lu asked. Don't be so polite, I'll leave first and come back tomorrow morning. Lu Feng wiped his mouth, stood up and left. After Lu Feng left, several men in their 30s and 40s sat together, smoking cigarettes and looking quite melancholy. This young man is unreliable no matter how you look at him. Don't ask us for food money in a few days. If you continue to make trouble like this, I'm afraid you'll annoy others and you won't get even a dime in the end. Let me tell you, stop doing this. Seriously, who will give you money if you do this? Let's go to Mr. Sun and have a nice word with him. Please, maybe it will work. If you mess around with him here, it won't work. A result. I don't agree. I've said so many good things before, so I have to make trouble with him. Damn it, if I don't make trouble, I'll be fooled. Is this your business alone? You are so humming happy, what will happen to our wages? The two gangs quarreled. Compared to the people they faced, these people showed weakness. As long as a group of people does anything, they will split into two different factions, conservative and offensive. When Lu Feng returned to the hotel, night had fallen. As soon as he walked into the lobby, the front desk said to him, "Mr. Lu, I have your phone number. I have called several times this afternoon. This is the phone number." Lu Feng took the phone and took a look and found that it was not the company or Zhang Xiaoyan. He secretly wondered who was looking for him. I returned to the room and called the number. After the call was connected, the operator over there said, "Hey, this is Tianjin Third People's Hospital. Which department are you looking for?" "Tianjin Hospital," Lu Feng frowned, thinking that the caller might have dialed the wrong number, but the front desk said that the caller clearly stated that they were looking for him. "Someone called me at this number this afternoon and said they were looking for me." "Your phone number?" 3186. "Okay, let me look it up for you." "Hang up the phone first," the other end of the phone said, and hung up. Lu Feng sat there with doubts in his mind, secretly thinking in his heart, could it be that Zhang Quan and his gang suspected that he hadn't left? But it shouldn't be a call from the hospital. When Wang Huimei heard Lu Feng's call back, she didn't care about eating as she was eating. She put down her aluminum lunchbox and ran away. When she got to the phone answering station, she called Lu Feng. "Hello, who's there?" Lu Feng answered the phone and asked. "Hello. Is this Mr. Lu from GFN Electronics? I'm the little duck's mother. Wang Huimei spoke loudly into the phone and said, my daughter is your child's class teacher. Oh, Lu Feng really didn't expect her to call and asked, what's going on? My eldest daughter is wronged, you have to make the decision for us. Wang Huimei seemed to be going to the Yamen to file an account, and she started crying as she spoke. Lu Feng hurriedly interrupted, I already understand this matter. Don't worry. As long as Li's Heike really has something, I will definitely investigate it within the company. We are a private company. If you want to pursue criminal liability, or you have to call the police or go to court. I just want an answer from you. If you make the decision for me, I will feel at ease. He must be afraid of someone as rich and powerful as you standing by my side. Wang Huimei understood Lu Feng's meaning simply and crudely. As long as I can control anything in the company, I will definitely control it. I can't control anything else. Don't be too anxious to get angry. As long as he has a problem, he will definitely be dealt with. Do you have any evidence over there, such as accepting bribes and withholding money? Embezzling public funds or something? Lu Feng asked. Although Wang Huimei was from the village and didn't know a few Dao characters, she also knew that Li's Heike would definitely not get better if he handed over the things Lu Feng said. I'll go back and look for it. Okay, if you have any, remember to give it to me, Lu Feng said to the phone, then I'll hang up first. Thank you, Wang Huimei said politely. After hanging up the phone, Wang Huimei's face was filled with joy. This time she wanted to see what other tricks Li's Heike could come up with. I'll make another call, Wang Huimei said with joy on her face as she pressed Li's Heike's phone number. After dialing, Li's Heike's voice came from the other end of the phone. Who? Me. Who can it be? Wang Huimei quickly changed her face, which was different from Lu Feng's call just now. Li's Heike suddenly had a headache when he heard Wang Huimei's voice. This old mother-in-law was the most difficult person he had ever seen in his life. He said angrily, why are you calling me? I will divorce her right away. Don't worry, we will divide it up clean. Divorce? You have the final say? Who do you think you are? You only have a few stinky money, but you don't know how big the world is. Let me tell you, I can now contact the boss of the company you work for. You'd better speak to me, otherwise, you won't be able to live well, Wang Huimei threatened. You scared me to death. You're still looking for the boss. It's not like Mr. Zhang and I don't know each other. Go find me. I'm telling you, your daughter and I are having trouble now, and it's all because of you. Li's Heike seemed to have something in his stomach. Holding fire. So what about me? No matter how rich you are, you still have to stay with me. What you are looking for is not Mr. Zhang, but the largest boss in the group, Mr. Lu. Xiao teaches in Shenzhen, and Mr. Lu's daughter happens to be in her class. Student, now that you are no longer good, Xiao will lay you off with just one word, Wang Huimei shouted sternly. Li's Heike was stunned when he heard this. Is there such a coincidence in the world? He didn't believe it. Mr. Lu just came the day before yesterday and left after one day. How can such a big boss work so hard for you, a primary school teacher? Li's Heike said disdainfully. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 973. Latest website. You don't believe it, right? Then I'll let Mr. Lu tell you, Wang Huimei said with extra confidence. When Li's Heike heard that she was so sure, he panicked for a moment, and secretly thought to himself, does a scumbag like Wang Huimei really have such shitty luck? Okay, ask Mr. Lu to call me. Li's Heike really didn't believe this. Wang Huimei saw that he would not shed tears without seeing the coffin, so she agreed and hung up the phone directly. The person waiting in line behind her became impatient when she saw her starting to dial again, and urged, can you hurry up? I spent the money. Do you have any control over how long I want to play? Wang Huimei scolded in a bitter tone, you poor thing. The phone number was dialed. Just as Lu Feng was about to take a shower, the phone rang again. He picked up the phone and asked, who is this? Mr. Lu, it's me, Wang Huimei said in a particularly gentle tone on the phone. I'm sorry to bother you. I told Li's Heike that they are not afraid of you at all. This person is just arrogant, so he must treat him, call him, scold him. Lu Feng was speechless listening to the words on the phone. Who did he mean to her? Feather duster or slippers for kids? I'm very busy. You'd better handle your family matters yourself, Lu Feng replied. No, this is also a matter of the unit. You are the leader. How can he complete his work like this? It's just a matter of a phone call. I beg you, it's not easy in my family. Wang Huimei burst into tears as she spoke. Lu Feng heard one thing and the other big. He really didn't know what Wang Huimei wanted to do. If he wanted to expose Li's Heike, he should have produced corresponding evidence. Why did it feel like he was trying to scare this person now? The person on the other end of the phone begged and cried, almost making Lu Feng kneel down. Okay, give me your phone number, Lu Feng said helplessly. After getting the phone number, Lu Feng called Li's Heike and also checked his tone. Li's Heike was one of the 10,000 people who didn't believe that an old woman with little knowledge like Wang Huimei could contact the group boss, but for some reason, she felt particularly uneasy at the moment. The phone rang, which was very abrupt in the silent room. Li's Heike was startled, looked at the phone, picked it up, and asked tentatively, who is it? I am Lu Feng, chairman of Jiafeng Electronics Group. Lu Feng's voice came from the phone. Li's Heike didn't know whether it was true or not, but the tone on the other end of the phone was definitely not that of an ordinary person. He said hurriedly, hello, Mr. Lu, you haven't rested yet? Don't be too tired. I'm calling you because your mother-in-law is saying that the family is not harmonious. As the backbone of the Tianjin factory, now is the time to tackle the new factory. Only by taking care of the housework can you devote yourself to work. What do you think? What's the matter? Communicate more and there's nothing that can't be said. Yes, what you taught me is true, and I will definitely do it. If you are troubled, I heard that my sister-in-law is a teacher for your children, right? Li's Heike asked tentatively. He could feel that he seemed to have found a smooth path to success. If he could grasp this line, even if Mr. Zhang was in front of him, what would it mean? What's more, a little Mr. Sun. Yes, I went to check it out that day. Everything in the factory is fine. If there is anything I don't know about, you can tell me. Lu Feng gave him a few answers. No, everything is going well in the factory now under the leadership of Mr. Zhang. Even if there are some minor problems, we won't be able to trouble you. If you were asked to come forward, wouldn't the rest of us just be the breadwinners? Li's Heike smiled flatteringly. He smiled and said, you are the helmsman, we are just laborers at best. Wherever you point, we will rush to where. Are you sure there's nothing wrong? Lu Feng said solemnly. Li's Heike was startled. He didn't know why. He always felt that the voice on the phone was so familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it before, especially this time. The questioning tone was very familiar. I couldn't remember it for a moment, so I replied, I'm sure it's okay. Don't worry. Okay, I'll hang up. Lu Feng put down the phone after saying that. Li's Heike listened to the blind tone on the phone, and a layer of cold sweat broke out on his back. He let out a big breath and sat on the sofa with his mind racing. He still couldn't divorce his current wife. This was definitely a big opportunity for him. But when he thought of Wang Huimei's face, Li's Heike felt sick. He admitted that he had done something wrong. After making money, he had more women around him, but he just made the same mistake that all men make. He raised 3 women outside. 5 women often go up to the second floor with them after going out to socialize and take a shower, that's all. Wang Huimei thought that Li's Heike was disgusting and that she had just made the same mistake as any mother-in-law would make in the world. She asked him to hand over all the money to her to give her daughter a guarantee. She also said at the time that as long as the income reached 95%, yes, he fell in love with which floor he went to after taking a shower. Li's Heike thought for a while and decided to call. After all, there were not many opportunities like this, and he had to seize it. This year, he had gone from being a low-income guy to his current position. He understood the importance of opportunities very well. After the call was connected, Li's Heike's words instantly softened and he said gently, "Mom, Mr. Lu called me and educated me. I immediately realized that family is the first priority. Don't worry, I will definitely do it in the future. It will be good to my wife." Humph, Wang Huimei sneered. Apparently she had the upper hand in this fight and said, "I'm telling you, clean up the mess outside and hand over all your money. And, I don't have a job now, and your wife doesn't have a job either. You can't make a career on your own, so you just want to leave our family and fly, right? Yes, it was my fault before. Come to the company tomorrow and I will make arrangements for you. How is my wife doing now?" "Is it serious?" Li's Heike asked with concern. "It's good. I'll be discharged from the hospital tomorrow. Let me tell you, Xiao's daughter can contact Mr. Lu at any time. She can get you up with just one word and get you down with just one word. Do you understand? The phone bill is quite expensive. Yes, I won't tell you any more, you can figure it out yourself." Wang Huimei hung up the phone immediately after saying that. Li's Heike put down the phone, feeling a little unhappy, but now he was being manipulated by her. He was not the one to be manipulated. After thinking about it, he thought that the key point was his sister-in-law. If he took her sister-in-law down, wouldn't he have surpassed the mother-in-law? Middlemen. Wang Huimei returned to the ward and sat there chatting with her eldest daughter. She felt that Xiao was not bad looking, and Mr. Lu was quite young, so she thought about letting Xiao slowly get closer to Lu Feng and quietly become a little girl. Isn't that the Jiafeng group dominates the world with one hand? I have a wife. Besides, she is in school, where can I get in touch with her? The eldest daughter muttered. You are stupid. His child is not in Xiao's class. He just said that he would make up lessons for his child. It's just a matter of 1 and 2 times, isn't it? I'll tell her about this tomorrow and let her take the initiative, Wang Huimei secretly planned in her heart. This night was destined to be a night of chaotic thoughts. The migrant workers in the workshed couldn't sleep. How could they go home if their wages were not paid? Li's Heike tossed and turned and couldn't sleep, trying to remember what the little duck liked and how he could tie the two of them together. Go, while Wang Huimei is thinking about going to the factory to find a salary. With Li's Heike's relationship, he can make a lot of money. Early the next morning, Lu Feng was sitting in the restaurant eating breakfast, looking at the morning newspaper in his hand. 1 year was about to pass. The country's various economic forecasts were disclosed to the outside world. This year's GDP growth rate is estimated to be 3%. Actually 36%, 450 million kilograms of grain, and 1.33 million automobiles, including motorcycles and all motor vehicles. Lu Feng was quite shocked when he looked at these estimated data, especially the GDP growth rate, which really scared him. However, when he thought about the current bank storage interest rate, it was as high as 10 or 30%. The growth rate is no surprise. If calculated according to the purchasing power of money, Lu Feng's 100 million yuan in 1990 was equivalent to 200 million yuan at the end of 1994. This was a crazy era. While wages were skyrocketing, prices were also taking off. After looking through various data, the light industry has the fastest growth rate, and the prices of home appliances, bicycles, shoes and hats and other products have dropped by half compared to a few years ago. Starting in 1995, domestic savings interest rates were tightened, and the economy truly stabilized. After experiencing the panic caused by Big Brother in the previous few years, it gradually became more stable, and the economy began to solidify. After reading some important newspapers, some of the important speeches above still insist on adhering to light industry. State-owned enterprises promote heavy industry, make every effort to attract foreign investment. The economy should give way to everything, and at the same time require strict implementation of family planning. This money is like pieces of paper. Households with 10,000 yuan in the past are now everywhere in the city. Lu Feng sighed and threw the newspaper aside and started eating. So no matter what era he was in, you have to work hard to make money, otherwise currency depreciation will turn you into a poor man. After dinner, it was around 8 o'clock in the morning. Lu Feng changed his clothes and went downstairs to resolve the matter here as soon as possible. He had to rush back before the board meeting. He has decided to clean up the rotten meat in the new factory area and conduct a comprehensive inspection at the beginning of the new year. The money is not enough in the first place, and there are so many rats down there. If he doesn't kill them, Lu Feng will really feel sorry for himself who is making money outside. At around 7 o'clock in the morning, 3 bulldozers drove into the construction site. Li Zhaiki drove to the work shed with a tired face. Obviously he had not slept well last night. Boss, can you dismantle it? Demolish. Kick the people out and tell them to come out if they don't want to die. Li Zhaiki lit a cigarette. The weather was a bit cold in the morning and he was breathing hot air. Damn it, get rid of me. One by one, the bastards rushed to the door, and without saying a word, they kicked the door. It was originally a simple room, and they kicked the door out. Those inside, get out of there. They will be demolished soon. If you don't want to die, just sleep in there. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 974. Latest website. Xiao Henan was awakened by the sound of the door being kicked. He sat up in a daze. His hair was messy. Feeling the cold wind blowing in from the door, he cursed, "Who is it? Is he sick?" Many people had already gotten up and were cursing at the people outside. Hao Lu hurriedly put on his trousers, got out of bed and shouted, "Why should we demolish it just because we say it is demolished? There are still people living in this place. If this place is demolished, where will we live? Wherever I love to live, I live there. This was built by the company. Now that the first phase of the project is completed, of course it will be demolished. I'm warning you one last time. If you don't come out, you can just demolish it." Everyone was in a hurry. People were still awake early in the morning, their things were not packed at all, and their wages were not received. If this little possessions were lost, they would really be destitute. Can you postpone it for a few days? That's right, where are we going to stay? Everyone begged for mercy, but the few bastards standing at the door were not moved at all. Li Zhaiki was standing not far away smoking a cigarette. He glanced at the people working around here and shouted, "Hurry up, why can't you do this well? Damn it, let me get the bulldozer on. If you don't believe them, they won't go out." The bulldozer pushed the accelerator, and the exhaust pipe emitted black smoke, heading towards the simple house, and directly hit the house. In an instant, the simple house was like paper, swaying, as if it would fall apart with just a little more force. Everyone in the house saw that it was about to collapse and didn't care about anything else. They ran out in panic. Someone ran out shirtless. Hao Lu rushed out, holding his own things in his hands, and shouted to the bulldozer driver, "Inside is someone crazy. Push it to me, damn, are you fighting with us? If you're blind, Even the Second Bureau of China Construction Engineering Group Co., Limited can't do it? Who do you think you are? Li Zhaiki held a cigarette between his two fingers and shouted, "Push! Whoever dies is mine." The driver stepped on the accelerator and rushed towards the simple house. He was pushed to the ground in an instant. Someone rolled out and ran out, his expression full of fear and his face turned pale. "Can't we give it a little longer? We won't be paid wages. We can't come back even if we want to go home. As for killing them all? Aren't you afraid of retribution? Everything is still inside, nothing has been taken out." The crowd was shouting excitedly, but Li Zhaiki stood there unmoved, smoking a cigarette and glancing at the crowd with an indifferent expression. Several middle-aged men were squatting on the ground, wearing thin clothes. They wanted to go up and punish them, but they didn't dare. If I rushed up alone, I would get nothing except a beating. These people were just a mess. In less than half an hour, a row of simple houses had turned into a garbage dump on the ground. Everyone looked helplessly at the pile of ruins in front of them and could do nothing. "You are limited to leave today. This is the company's property. The construction period has ended and your wages will be paid. Don't worry, it's just not now." After Li Zhaiki said that, he remembered that Wang Huimei would come to see him today and walked toward him. He walked towards the car, got in, stepped on the accelerator and sped away. The gangsters drove away with the forklift, leaving only a mess. Lu Feng was sitting in a taxi. He just turned the corner and was about to enter the construction site. He saw a car coming out, followed by several forklifts. There were more than a dozen people standing on the forklifts, holding sticks in their hands, and his heart skipped a beat. I suddenly had a bad feeling. The taxi turned inside. Lu Feng hurriedly got out of the car and saw that the row of simple houses was gone. Everyone was standing or squatting in the cold wind. Some people were standing on a lot of collapsed houses looking for their belongings. The canteen next to it was also knocked down. Lu Feng stepped forward and asked Hao Lu, "Why is this like this? Who demolished it?" Hao Lu raised his head. Such a big man's eyes were red at the moment. His expression was full of helplessness and he said, "Li Zhaiki led the people to demolish it?" He said that the construction period was over and all the sheds were going to be demolished. "Fortunately, we ran fast. Or else you'll be buried inside. It's so bullying. My luggage is all in there, it's all packed." Xiao Henan wiped away tears as he spoke, and the others also looked sad. The atmosphere at the scene was filled with frustration. "Male Gobe." Lu Feng cursed. These people really have ideas. With their place to live gone, these people are just like duckweeds in the city. Naturally, they have no time to think about asking for wages. "I will get my salary out today." "Don't worry, I will definitely get it out today." Lu Feng couldn't bear it anymore. Now he basically understands the situation, and no one in this group can escape. Everyone raised their heads and looked at him. Their eyes lost the expectations they had just yesterday. They no longer expected to get their salary before the year. Those who have relatives here will find a way to join them, and those who don't have relatives will find another way. People drove a forklift to push down the house today, which was a warning to yesterday's trouble. Since ancient times, the poor have never fought with the rich, and the rich have never fought with the officials. They understand this truth. If they get into trouble and are beaten to a disability, it will be even worse. The gain outweighs the loss. Lu Feng saw that no one was talking. The old man was rummaging around for his clothes, found 2 pieces, shook them out and put them on. "You are not such a bully. You have to keep up yourselves. If I say I can help you, I will definitely help you. It has already come to this point. How can it be worse?" Lu Feng said to Hao Lu, "What do you think? Today try again." Everyone was dejected. Hao Lu found his coat and put it on, looked at everyone and asked, "What do you think?" Seeing that Lu Feng was silent, everyone was obviously in complete despair. Anyway, that's it? Let's try again today. Maybe, even if we can't get it, we still have to ask him to give us a confirmation letter. I'll give him a confirmation letter sometime after the new year, the old coach spoke. Everyone thought it made sense and nodded in agreement. Pack up your things first, and then go have breakfast. I'll treat you. Only when you're full will you have the strength to ask for your salary, Lu Feng said solemnly. GFN Electronics factory is about to have a holiday, and most people seem a bit lazy. A taxi stopped at the entrance of the factory. Wang Huimei got out of the car and looked at the tall factory gate in front of her. Her face was quite impressive. He strode toward the door with quick strides. "What are you doing?" the security guard said to her. "This is a factory area. People from outside are not allowed to enter, you know." "You're blind, how dare a gatekeeper yell at me?" Wang Huimei felt like she was the boss of the factory at this moment, and yelled at the security guard, "Notify Li's Heike and say I'm here." "Who are you?" The security guard looked her up and down, feeling that the old woman in front of him was very confident, but he also felt unsure in his heart. "Why do you care so much?" "This is something you can control," Wang Huimei said in a high tone. The security guard didn't dare to pay too much attention. If it were really the leader's mother, wouldn't he be looking for trouble? He picked up the walkie-talkie and said to the general manager of the factory, Hey, is there a boss named Li's Heike at the gate?" A few minutes later, Li's Heike came out. When he saw Wang Huimei, even a person as domineering as him felt numb. His mother-in-law was definitely the one who ate up everything. Both girls listened to her, and every day except for thinking about asking for money from yourself is just thinking about how to squeeze yourself. "Come in. I'm telling you, I can come today, but I'm giving you face. Now you have to understand the formality. I'm not trying to covet you to arrange this stupid job for me. If you let Xiao Ya open his mouth to Mr. Lu, I will be the deputy director." "That's more than enough," Wang Huimei said boldly. Li's Heike was speechless. "Do you really think the deputy director can do it alone?" He didn't say anything, he just invited this person to the office first. He couldn't arrange anything. If it hadn't been for the small seafood delivered to Mr. Sun yesterday, this matter wouldn't have been possible today. Just now, Li's Heike was chatting with the director of the factory director's office. He had a position as the deputy head of the cleaning team. The salary could be higher. They were all his own people. In the general office, Wang Huimei sat in her seat, looked around and said, "Tell me, how much salary will you give me?" As soon as these words came out, everyone present looked at her, wondering what such an ant could do, and her face was full of the arrogance of a well-connected person. "I'll arrange this, don't worry, sit here for a while," Li's Heike comforted him. A middle-aged man next to him glanced at Wang Huimei and asked, "Are you here to work?" "We won't start work until the end of the year, and we will be on vacation soon." It's a holiday." "Anyway, I'm only here for one day, and I'll just get paid later. I can come if I want, and if I don't want to, I can't. Do you think I'm working like you? Let me tell you, there is someone above me. Does the boss know?" "Does Mr. Lu know?" Wang Huimei said with an arrogant look. Others were secretly stunned when they heard this, not knowing whether it was true or not, but this gesture was something that most people could not afford to offend. At the security office, several security guards were cursing and saying that the leader's dog was stronger than us. While they were chatting, they saw a large group of people approaching from a distance. "Oh, these people are here again." Everyone stood up and watched. Lu Feng was walking at the front, wearing a hat and a mask. The group looked aggressive, but in fact, except for Lu Feng, no one felt confident. Hao Lu trotted forward and said to Lu Feng, "Try your best to speak nicely in a moment and don't offend others. We are here to ask for money, not to fight." Don't make excuses. The matter was finally ignored. Don't worry, nothing will happen. There's someone above me, Lu Feng assured confidently. Xiao Henan followed Lu Feng very confidently. Adults like Hao Lu did not believe that there was someone on Lu Feng. If there was someone, this matter would not be so difficult. When he arrived at the factory gate, Lu Feng said to the security guard, "Open the door. We are either here to cause trouble, or we are here to talk to the leader." "No, no one who is not from the factory area can enter," the security guard said solemnly. Lu Feng couldn't say anything, so he had to take off his mask and said to him, "Look at my face." 5 or 6 security guards looked at Lu Feng's face carefully and said solemnly, "It doesn't matter if you are handsome." Lu Feng. He couldn't get angry for a while. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 975. Latest website. Lu Feng never expected that the last time he came was just a few days ago. At that time, the security guard was standing in a row. He didn't expect that he didn't recognize him, and he was speechless. The two sides were in a stalemate and refused to let in. Lu Feng really had no choice but to take out a wad of money from his pocket and stuff several coins into each person. Even if they were fired today because of this matter, it wouldn't be a loss. The retractable door opened, Lu Feng led the people in, and a small number of 200 people headed towards the office building in a mighty manner. Instead of going to various offices and letting them kick the ball back and forth today, I went directly to the factory director's office. The corridors were blocked by so many people. People in each office opened the doors and poked their heads out to see so many workers. Also a little dumbfounded. Lu Feng knocked on the door of the factory director's office, but no one came out. The door not far away opened and the director of the factory director's office came out. His face turned dark when he saw Lu Feng and a group of people crowding the corridor. "What are you doing? There are so many people, what do you want to do?" The director stretched out his hand and pushed away some migrant workers in front of him, walked over angrily and asked, "Who let you in?" Li's Heike and Mr. Sun also walked out. When they saw that so many migrant workers not only did not leave, but also rushed to the factory director's office floor, they instantly looked ugly. Mr. Sun looked at Li's Heike, whose expression was ugly. He really didn't expect these migrant workers to dare to rush to the office building. "I brought them in," Lu Feng turned around and said solemnly, "It's working time now, where is the factory director?" "It's you again, what do you want to do?" "Make trouble." The director came over, and everyone moved out of the way, looked around and said, "What are you doing?" Hao Lu whispered from the side, "We want wages." "You want a salary? Is this an attitude of asking for a salary? Ah! Do you have a leader in your eyes? If you don't pay today, are you going to rob it?" The director yelled loudly, with full confidence, and looked at Lu Feng and said, "You are taking the lead in making trouble, aren't you? Let me ask you, where is the salary?" Lu Feng stared at him and asked, "Where is the factory director? Where is the person in charge? What the hell are you asking me? Who are you? What qualifications do you have to meet the factory director?" The director said to everyone, "Salaries must be paid. If you are like this, I tell you clearly, don't even think about getting it this money." As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly panicked. This is what they are most afraid of. If someone gets stuck on you, you really have no temper at all. If everyone else is angry, they won't be angry with you. What can you do? We just want time. Give it to us anytime. They are all poor people. Please show mercy to me. This person has nothing to do with us. Someone next to him immediately softened. Hao Lu hurriedly pulled Lu Feng and whispered, Don't make any noise, otherwise you won't get the money. Everyone looked at Lu Feng with anxious expressions. If he annoys others again, they really don't know what will happen. By then, except for the 200 of them, everyone else's salary will be paid. A group of migrant workers stood leaning against the wall of the corridor without saying a word. The office doors on this floor were all opened, and everyone inside poked their heads out to take a look. What happened? I'm telling you, these people's wages are bad enough. Good guys, how dare you come here to cause trouble? Isn't Director Lee not here today? I just went out, otherwise this matter would be really big, and a group of migrant workers would dare to make such a fuss. I'm afraid they will end up in trouble. The murmurs of the crowd reached the ears of the migrant workers, and their faces turned grim. Who would have dared to challenge the leader if they hadn't been helpless? The director stared at Lu Feng. He knew that the man in front of him wearing a hat and a mask was taking the lead in making trouble. He said in a deep voice, "Young man, think about the consequences of your actions. What does it have to do with you? Don't make yourself unhappy. You're starting to threaten me, aren't you?" Lu Feng stared at him and said, "I'm not afraid of threats. These people's wages must be paid today. I said, even if the Lord of Hell comes today, they must be paid. Are you looking for death?" Li Haiki rushed out first, pointed his finger at Lu Feng and shouted, come on, don't say it here, let's go out and say it, let's go." As he spoke, he was about to step forward and pull Lu Feng's clothes. Hao Lu and the others were already retreating in their hearts. There was no point in quarreling with him. Xiao Henan was the first to stand up, standing in front of Lu Feng and shouting, "What are you doing? Do you still want to hit someone? You pushed our house in the morning, and now you want to hit someone? Is that reasonable? What the hell does it have to do with you?" Li Haiki shouted, "Go away, I tell you guys, if you want wages, get out now, understand? The factory director will come back later and see the situation, you can get its salary, I'll go head first." The timid ones have already moved towards the stairs. He doesn't care whether others can get their wages back. That's okay for dead Taoist friends, but definitely not for dead Taoists. What will happen if the factory director comes back? I'll just wait here. Don't talk about the factory director, you'd better call Zhang Quan over. This matter needs to be discussed clearly today, Lu Feng said solemnly. Stop talking and let's go. Hao Lu stood aside with regret. After he finished speaking, he saw that Lu Feng had no intention of leaving, so he pulled Lao Shui, Xiao Henan, and a few others and muttered something about leaving. Before they could leave, Lu Feng pulled him back. "No one should leave today, I will fight with you." Lu Feng looked at the three directors and said, "Fight to death." The director turned back and glanced at Mr. Sun and Li Haiki. His meaning was very clear. It was obviously not for money that he brought these migrant workers to make trouble with him. The matter itself had nothing to do with him. It felt like he had offended someone. Mr. Sun and Li Haiki recalled it in their minds, and they couldn't remember that they had offended such a person. "We are fighting to the death, right? Okay, these people are willing to be buried with you, we don't care, the money is in our hands, we have the final say," the director said solemnly. "What are you doing? So many people," a rather dignified voice came immediately after the director's words. Everyone followed the sound and looked towards the stairs. They saw a man in his 40s, wearing a grey suit. He was tall and had a majestic look on his face. It was obvious that he could have this kind of temperament only because he was in a high position. The director, Mr. Sun, and Li Haiki were also shocked when they saw the arrival. The director hurriedly said, "Director, they are here to cause trouble. I will ask the security guards to chase them away now. The factory director is back." When Hao Lu and others heard about the factory director, their faces turned pale with fright. He was a powerful person, and one word could destroy their wages. They were completely panicked. Lu Feng looked at factory director Li in front of him and asked, "Are you the factory director?" "I'm not, are you?" Director Li looked at Lu Feng and felt that he didn't look like a migrant worker, so he asked, "What do you do?" "I have to pay. So many people have not been paid for their work." "Where are their original payments?" Lu Feng stared at him and asked. "It's your turn to ask me? Who do you think you are?" Director Li's words were full of anger, and he dared to question himself about anything. "That is to say, you also know about this, right?" Lu Feng looked at factory director Li. It was obvious that everyone was worried about this. But think about it, all this money requires their signature. If they signed and approved the money, they should be confused about the migrant workers now collecting debts. "Who are you? What qualifications do you have to talk to me?" Director Li was very angry. How could cats and dogs be equal to him? In this factory, he is considered inferior to one person and superior to 10,000 people. As long as he is unhappy, it doesn't matter whether you are in the factory or outside the factory, he can deal with you. "What are you doing here? Do you want a salary? If you don't want a salary, do you want your life? Let me tell you, I am very unhappy now. My good mood for the day has been completely polluted by you people. If you want a salary, get out. If you don't want to, if you want, I'll ask the security to ask you out." When the migrant workers who were standing at the top of the stairs heard this, they dared not stay still and walked down one after another. Others saw that someone was leaving, so they moved towards the top of the stairs as they were not being targeted. Hao Lu grabbed the clothes of Xiao Henan and Lao Shui and headed towards the stairs. Before he could start, Lu Feng pulled him back. "Why are you going? Today I said I would give you wages, so I will give you wages. Don't worry, they will be paid on the spot, even if it is a dime less," Lu Feng assured Hao Lu and others. Hao Liu's face turned green and he whispered, "Please let me go. Didn't you say there are people above? Where can I find such a good person? If they are all gone, the few of us left will really not get our wages." People standing at the door of other offices watching the excitement began to murmur. "You still want a salary? Don't you know your arms can't twist your thighs?" This group of people are also brainless. They ask such a person for salary, and he has no salary. Of course, they are confident and they completely ignore these people. I'm telling you, the wages of these people are terrible enough. If Director Li is not happy, I won't be able to do it even if I'm here. Is Mr. Zhang here today? Have no idea. Hundreds of people had already gone downstairs. A well-dressed man in his 50s walked upstairs. He frowned at the migrant workers around him and asked, "What do you do?" "We're here to ask for wages." Zhang Quan looked grim as he watched so many people walking down. Who could enter this building if they wanted to? He quickened his pace and went upstairs. When he saw factory director Li standing there, he shouted in a deep voice, "How can anyone enter this building? What are they doing to eat? Director Li, are all the security guards just losers?" Director Li was startled when he saw Mr. Zhang coming, and said hurriedly, "Those who are causing trouble should leave immediately. Tomorrow, no, I will tell the security guards to get out today." "Mr. Zhang is here?" The major office workers who were standing in the corridor watching the excitement all went to their offices. This time things really got serious. They looked at the remaining migrant workers with some sympathy. These people were purely warned by this person. The young man with the hole in his hat was fooled. As soon as Mr. Zhang spoke, it was useless for them to look for anyone. The last year was completely in vain. Lu Feng stared at Mr. Zhang and found the source. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 976. Latest website. Mr. Zhang is here. I'll go, is it true or not? Really, stop looking and go back quickly. Everyone who was looking at the office door quickly retracted their heads. This time things really got serious. Director Lee was standing there at a loss. If such a thing was done like this, he would probably have to be scolded. Mr. Zhang, the problem in this matter is mine. The migrant workers are clamoring for wages. I will call security immediately. Director Lee has a strong sense of responsibility as a leader and takes responsibility immediately. The director, Mr. Sun, and Lee's Heike standing aside were all relieved. If the responsibility fell on them, they would probably be fired. Zhang Quan stood there with a sinister look on his face, and glanced at everyone present without saying a word. He was full of momentum. The place was crowded, but it was so quiet that you could hear the needle drop. Hao Liu's face turned pale with fright. What a leader he was! Lu Feng had really been tricked this time, and he secretly regretted it. Zhang Quan stood there and looked at everyone and said, "What are you doing? Is this where you are making trouble?" "I'm here to ask for wages, not to cause trouble," Lu Feng said. "Am I telling you about wages now? This is an office building, not your construction site." "It's just nonsense," Zhang Quan scolded righteously. That kind of leadership tone made everyone present afraid to speak. It was completely different from the humility and easy to talk shown in front of Lu Feng. Okay, let's disperse. Don't let the security guards chase people away." The director stood up and said, let's go. The person who was about to leave at the top of the stairs was now shrinking his neck in fear and walking down. Hao Lu pulled Xiao Henan and started to leave. As soon as he took 2 steps, Lu Feng pulled him back. "What are you going for?" Lu Feng asked. Hao Liu's face twisted into a frown. He looked at Lu Feng and almost cried. He whispered, "Let's go now. If you don't leave, your salary will really be gone." "Why is it gone?" "I just happened to meet the boss. I have to ask him, where did the wages of so many people go?" Lu Feng stared at Zhang Quan and said, "Where is the money?" As soon as the word Lu Feng came out, many people at the scene felt their hearts shrinking violently. The director, Lee's Heike, and Mr. Sun looked at Lu Feng and almost killed themselves. Isn't this hitting the gun? He is not afraid of getting into trouble. Mr. Zhang is unhappy, and these people can't escape. Who are you? A worker at a construction site. Zhang Quan stared at Lu Feng and felt that something was wrong. The tone and feeling of this man talking to him made him feel very uncomfortable. The young man in front of me has no sense of awe. The doors of all major offices were still open. Those who were brave and not afraid of being caught by their leaders stood at the door and watched quietly. Seeing Lu Feng questioning Mr. Zhang face to face, his heart suddenly rose to his throat. "I'm helping them collect debts," Lu Feng replied. "Debt? What kind of debt?" "It's just a way to defer wages." "How come it's a debt?" "You're looking for people like this who are idle in society and storming the office." "What do you want to do?" Zhang Quan stared at Lu Feng and shouted, "Get out of here." "Postponed? When will it be postponed? Does it have anything to do with you?" "This is an internal matter within our company." Director Lee stood up, stared at Lu Feng and threatened, "Young man, don't push yourself. The real idea is to kill the enemy with a gun. I'm just trying to stand out today." "Where's the salary? Where's the money?" Lu Feng asked. Hao Lu could see that Lu Feng was a brainless person. He thought that if he caught someone asking questions, he would be like you. He just wanted to prevaricate you and send you away. "There will be plenty of time to settle accounts with you later. Let's go, don't ask, let's understand," Hao Lu said and pulled Lu Feng towards the stairs. "Let me go." Lu Feng broke away from Hao Liu's hand and asked Zhang Quan, "Where's the money?" "Talk, don't stop talking." More than a dozen security guards rushed up to the stairwell and blocked the stairwell in an instant, followed closely behind by about 20 gangsters, all shaking their heads, obviously not a good person. There was no one present, and the migrant workers secretly complained in their hearts that they should have gone down just now. If a fight broke out soon, they would probably be beaten in vain. Seeing this situation, Hao Lu felt desperate. He quietly pushed Xiao Henan back and motioned for him to stand back. Others present were also trembling with their legs. Seeing that the situation was under control, Zhang Quan said to everyone present, "Deduct money from these people today." "What qualifications do you have to deduct money?" Lu Feng asked, staring at him. "Can you please stop talking?" Hao Lu was so anxious that he was almost sweating. He had never seen such a lack of vision. "I can deduct it if I want, and I'm telling you clearly, I don't know if my salary will be paid next year. I'll pay it if I'm in a good mood, but not if I'm in a bad mood," Zhang Quan said to Lu Feng. "Like you, such people will never get a salary from me in this life." "Why is he so powerful?" "If you don't do it today, you won't be able to leave." "If you don't do it, you can't leave." Lu Feng looked at him and said. "Who the hell are you?" "Damn it, I don't know how many eyes the King of Heaven has." Li Haiki couldn't help it and cursed at Lu Feng. He was about to take action. A group of security guards and gangsters were watching. The atmosphere at the scene suddenly became tense, and the migrant workers present almost cursed Lu Feng to death. He really failed to succeed and failed more than failed. Lu Feng didn't want to talk nonsense with them anymore and asked Zhang Quan, "In other words, you know that this salary has not been paid, and you are also covering up the money. From the bottom to the top, you are really colluding." "What? Shangao the emperor is far away, right? No one can control you." "Oh, yes, the mountain is high and the emperor is far away. What's wrong?" Director Li sneered. "What can you do? Do you have the guts to sue?" Without further ado, Lu Feng reached out and took off his hat, throwing it on the ground. He then took off his mask and stared at Zhang Quan and the others coldly. "What's going on? You dare to show your face? Aren't you afraid that your legs will be broken soon?" Li Haiki threatened. Standing opposite, Zhang Quan and factory director Li were stunned. They stared at Lu Feng in disbelief. They were filled with disbelief. Didn't Mr. Lu go back? In an instant, Zhang Quan was stunned. He felt that his mind went blank, with only two words echoing in his heart, "That was it." Director Li was also confused. He opened his mouth to explain something and save the situation, but after saying so much just now, it was already too late to say anything now. "Having your legs broken? Okay, let's see who dares," Lu Feng said solemnly. "You really think I?" Before Li Haiki could finish his words, Director Li turned around and slapped him hard across the face. Snapped. This slap immediately stunned Li Haiki. Not only was he stunned, but the migrant workers, security guards, and gangsters present were all dumbfounded. Why did one of our own suddenly take action? Li. "Mr. Li, why did you hit me?" Li Haiki said in disbelief. "You are talking nonsense. Do you know who he is?" Factory director Li shouted. Everyone focused their attention on Lu Feng. Hao Lu slowly straightened up and looked at Lu Feng. He originally felt that this young man was not like an ordinary person, and indeed he was. "Who is he?" Li Haiki asked aggrievedly. "Didn't you just say that the emperor is far away if the mountain is high?" Lu Feng looked at him and smiled and said, "It's not far now." The whole place was in an uproar as soon as this was said, with expressions full of disbelief, and the whole office was in an uproar. Holy crap! Damn it, who do you think is the one who wants to pay? Who is it? Where is it going? Is Mr. Zhang gone? Don't worry about Mr. Zhang. Didn't the boss of the headquarters come here a few days ago? Don't tell me, the one who is causing trouble is the big boss. Yes, that's him. All the major offices in this corridor were in shock. This time they were hit hard, not to mention that President Zhang, Director Li, and the director had just said harsh words and withheld the wages of migrant workers. These people are all cold, Very cold. Mr. Liu, aren't you leaving? Mr. Zhang also had seen the world. He immediately put on a different face and said with a smile, this salary matter should be resolved immediately. Solve it now because I am quite busy. I'm sorry for the delay, brothers, I'm sorry. Delayed. That's not what you said just now. I took them to ask for their wages for several days. I heard that you are going to pay bonuses. The factory hasn't started work yet this year. Who will give the bonus? Lu Feng stared at Zhang Quan and shouted, a bunch of beasts that eat people without spitting out their bones. People like Zhang Quan and Director Li were on the same rope. He felt that he was finished. They had all heard of Lu Feng's management methods. He would definitely be fired for this kind of thing. They were all destined to be fired anyway, so it didn't matter. Xiao Henan's eyes widened and his brain was about to freeze. He never dared to dream that the person chatting nonsense with him would be the group's boss. I don't know what the people below are doing. It's really not appropriate, but there are so many people there, so there's no need for you to yell. Zhang Quan didn't care anymore and said, thankfully, I'm in Tianjin, so I'm quite capable. It's about personal connections. What do you mean? Looking for someone to mess with me, Lu Feng smiled. He was a dead pig and was not afraid of being scalded by boiling water. He said in a deep voice, go, I will give you a chance. Go now, let alone Tianjin, anywhere in the country you can find anyone anywhere, even abroad. Zhang Quan and Director Li stood there silently. For them, everything was meaningless. The worst thing they could do was quit. They could just leave and leave. Lu Feng turned around and looked around, asking, where's the financial person? Downstairs a woman in her 30s stood at the door of the office next to her. You go find it, and you will be paid today. The people on site will sign and get their wages. Those who come next year will get their wages first. As for the project that was originally awarded to China State Construction Engineering Corporation, how could it be transferred to the name of a subordinate construction company? Speak slowly. Lu Feng looked at Zhang Quan and said, I know you are powerful in the local area. If you want to show off your skills to me, you can give it a try. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 977. Latest website. Zhang Quan's original thoughts were completely destroyed when he heard these words. He really wanted to fight with others. He was afraid that if Lu Feng made a few calls to the municipal government, these people would be imprisoned. At this moment, Zhang Quan still thought that he would be fired at most, but little did he know that Lu Feng had already thought of letting him go to jail. Everyone at the scene did not dare to take a breath. What a big scene this was. For them, the office director was already a big leader. Today he was the factory director and the general manager. In the end, even the group CEO showed up. This for everyone, it's already a bit numb. Downstairs, the person in charge of finance hurriedly walked downstairs. The migrant workers who had originally evacuated heard that the young man who asked for their accounts was the group boss, and they suddenly became energetic. If they don't go back quickly to collect their wages, what are they waiting for? For a moment, everyone walked back one after another. People on the first floor crowded towards the stairs. It was extremely noisy. The office doors opened one after another. Some of them started to yell at these migrant workers to get out, but no one paid him any attention. The noise in the corridor alarmed many people. Wang Huimei was a little impatient when she sat down and waited. She told him last night, but she was left hanging here. Wang Huimei felt that Li's Heike didn't take her to heart at all, and she was very unhappy. Where are you, Mr. Li? Wang Huimei asked the person next to her. The man next to him was a little speechless. He was just a supervisor of an outsourced project, but they gave him face and didn't reveal it. He said casually, it should be upstairs. You go up and look for it. Wang Huimei listened to the man's perfunctory words and stood up with a straight face. She then found Li's high cafe and asked the man to learn how to speak. She picked up her handbag and walked upstairs. What are you doing here? Crowded with so many people, Wang Huimei frowned and scolded, "Get out of my way, do you know who I know? Do you want to do it?" Wang Huimei pushed and pulled, quickly opened a path, and walked upstairs. In this enterprise, she definitely walked sideways. So what if he is the factory director? There is a saying that the eunuchs beside the emperor are bigger than the second-rank officials, not to mention that his own daughter controls the prince. Before the financial staff came up, she came up first. Seeing so many people above, Wang Huimei was not afraid at all. She looked directly at Li's Heike and scolded, "I have given you nothing to do, how long have you been standing here, what are you doing here?" "Holding a meeting." The sharp voice directly broke the silence at the scene. Li's Heike instantly felt his scalp numb and said hurriedly, "Don't make such nonsense. Get down first and talk later." "What are you talking about? Who are the people under you? Let me ask you a question. What kind of attitude do you have for being so indifferent?" Wang Huimei shouted sternly, "Go down and fire that thing of mine. Go now." Everyone present was dumbfounded. Who is this person? Today is definitely a big drama. Not only does the group CEO appear, but now this person feels a bit more arrogant than the group CEO. Li's Heike was so anxious that he almost cried. With such a mother-in-law on the stall, she was also blind. Didn't she say she knew Mr. Lu on the phone, but didn't she see Mr. Lu standing there? The leader is here today. You go down first. There are some things to deal with here. Let's talk about it after it's done. Li's Heike couldn't help it and took 2 steps forward, wanting to push her downstairs first. Who is the leader? How big is it? Let's see. Wang Huimei is in a state of expansion at the moment. She doesn't care about the leader. Now she just wants to show her authority and connections. With so many people, she wants to make everyone in the factory, "I know that I am not easy to mess with." It's best to be flattering when you meet him in the future. If you have something to do, don't use it. If you hide it, it means it doesn't matter. Stop talking. Li's Heike lowered his voice and gritted his teeth. Didn't you see that the general manager and factory director Li are both here? We can talk about it later, okay? What are you afraid of them doing? Get out of the way. Wang Huimei pushed Li's Heike away, walked towards Zhang Quan and factory director Li, and said, "You two are general manager Zhang and factory director Li, right?" The two of them were confused when they saw Wang Huimei. They didn't know who this woman was. They were afraid that their position would be gone in the afternoon, but they still nodded and asked her what happened. "I tell you, be polite to my son-in-law Li's Heike from now on, otherwise it will be difficult for you to understand. I'm not afraid to tell you too that there is someone above me." Wang Huimei looked at the two of them rather sternly and said, "I know." "No." Mr. Zhang and factory manager Li both laughed when they heard this. "No matter how many people are above you, can you still be as big as the one standing opposite? Didn't you see that a little gangster who was supported by Mr. Sun actually learned to climb up the ladder? The people in the factory still looked down on him, but he went directly to curry favor with the people in the headquarters." "Really? Who is he?" Mr. Zhang asked, watching the fun and not taking it too seriously. "Don't worry about anyone. If they treat you, isn't that just something you can do with your hands? If you don't believe it, just try it. I don't have much to do here today. I just want to find a job in the factory." "Where is Li's Heike? Told me to be the leader of the cleaning team or something." I sat down and thought about it. "It would be meaningless if I were to be the team leader." Wang Huimei said to Zhang Quan quite confidently, "Do you think I am suitable to be the team leader?" "What kind of leader?" Everyone present was numb when they heard this, especially the migrant workers. They knew that they had to rely on care these days, but they didn't expect that they would be so open and above board, and they wouldn't go behind anyone's back. John Quan couldn't help laughing and said, "Why don't you sit in my seat?" "Sit in your seat? Who are you kidding? Let me tell you, I want to take care of people. I have 180 people under my command. You can take care of it for me as soon as possible," Wang Huimei said unceremoniously. Lu Feng stood aside with a gloomy face. He thought with his toes that this was probably Teacher Duoduo's mother. According to Teacher Duoduo, her family was bullied a lot. No matter how you look at it now, the person in front of you is not a bully. Lord of bullying. "What if I don't do it for you?" Lu Feng asked. Wang Huimei didn't expect anyone to dare to yell at her. When she turned around and saw that it was a young man, she felt even more disdainful and said, "Who are you? Don't worry about who I am. Are you a member of this company? You have to take care of the 180 people under me. How can you take care of it?" Lu Feng stared at her and said, "Besides, what do you do?" "Yes. Management ability." Seeing Lu Feng speak, Li Zhaiki hurriedly tried to pull Wang Huimei away, but was thrown aside. Wang Huimei's idea was very simple. She wanted to be in the limelight today and see who would dare to provoke her in the future. "It doesn't matter whether I have management ability or not, I tell you, there are people above me, understand?" Wang Huimei said confidently. "Is there anyone above you?" Lu Feng smiled, looked at her and said, "I tell you, there is no one above me. You dare to be arrogant when there is no one? Believe it or not, I ask someone to shoot you. Do you know who I know?" Wang Huimei decided to show off her connections. She glanced at the people present with a proud expression. After a while, you should see the frightened expressions on everyone's face. "Who are you talking about?" "Chairman of GFN Electronics Group, Mr. Lu," Wang Huimei said with her head held high. Everyone present focused their attention on Lu Feng. She said that she knew Mr. Lu, but at this moment Lu Feng was standing in front of her without recognizing him. "Then guess who I am," Lu Feng said solemnly. Li Zhaiki stood there with a face so twisted that he almost looked like a Shar-Pei. Wang Huimei looked at the young man in front of her. For some reason, she felt a bad feeling in her heart. She turned back to look at Li Zhaiki and asked, "Who is he?" Li Zhaiki took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "You don't even know about him, yet you dare to act arrogantly under his banner." Wang Huimei reacted instantly, saw Lu Feng stiffened for a few seconds, and said hurriedly, "Are you Mr. Lu? I'm really sorry, my daughter is your child's teacher, and this happened. Floods have washed away the Dragon King Temple, and one family no longer recognizes the other." "Family? I don't have a family like you, but I still appreciate your report. I gained a lot from this trip." After Lu Feng finished speaking, Mr. Zhang and factory director Li all looked at Wang Huimei, as if they were about to eat her up. Li Zhaiki stood there with a sad face and said nothing. This time it was really over, and it was over completely. The financial staff came over and said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Lu, their wages can be paid immediately. Okay, everyone go and get your salary. Those who are not here can come and get it next year. If you come back to get it during this time, that's fine. Let's tell each other." Lu Feng turned around and said to Hao Lu and Xiao Henan, "Go." Xiao Henan looked at Lu Feng in disbelief and said a little unfamiliarly, "Thank you, Mr. Lu." Lu Feng reached out and touched his head, and said with a smile, "Okay, go get your salary, old man. After you get your salary, go home as soon as possible, but you can't eat, drink or go whoring." The old handsome man smiled slightly sheepishly and walked down the stairs. Lu Feng glanced at everyone, turned around and walked downstairs, found a phone and called Wei Yandan's office directly. "Who is this?" Assistant Wei Yandan answered the phone. "I'm Lu Feng, Mr. Wei, please answer the phone." "Please wait." A few minutes later, Wei Yandan picked up the phone and said, "Mr. Lu, Aren't you back yet? The meeting here is about to start, and people from Schroeder Investment Group will be here today. I'll go back tomorrow. Ask the audit team to come to the Tianjin factory and check all the accounts. If they haven't found any problems I know about, let them figure it out on their own, Lu Feng said calmly. Vocal channel. Wei Yandan's heart skipped a beat. From Mr. Lu's words, she could tell that this matter might be serious, so she hurriedly agreed. After hanging up the phone, Wei Yandan felt a little uneasy. She had been in charge of the management of the subordinate factories, and this year's year-end bonus was probably gone. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 978. Latest website. Wang Huimei has been waiting downstairs. She is so regretful that her intestines are green now. Who would have thought that Lu Feng is still here now, and what he has done has been witnessed live. The migrant workers downstairs got their wages and walked out happily. As soon as Lu Feng walked out of the office, Wang Huimei rushed over and said hurriedly, "Mr. Lu, I'm really sorry. I'm blind. If there's anything wrong, please forgive me, don't argue with me, I'm just an uneducated woman. I can't control you. After all, you are not from within our company." Lu Feng looked at her and said. "I mean, Li's Heike is a very good person. He is very good at work and has always done a good job. My son-in-law is a good person. You can't do anything to him. That was all." These are angry words, really. Wang Huimei was so anxious that she almost cried. She grabbed Lu Feng's little arms with both hands and kept talking. The arrogant and domineering look in the corridor just now disappeared, and now he instantly turned into a look of weakness. "I remember that he beat your daughter, right? It was you who reported him." Lu Feng stared at her with interest. "I'm just trying to scare him. Besides, there's no way a couple won't quarrel. Please show your respect and don't make him angry. I'll kneel down for you." Wang Huimei knelt down on the ground with a plop as she spoke. Lu Feng saw her kneeling on the ground crying. If he hadn't seen that arrogant look just now, he might have wanted to seek justice for her now. It doesn't have to be like this. The company has investigated the situation internally and handled it according to the company's rules. If it's illegal, there are laws. Everything should be done step by step, Lu Feng said to him. If you target him, I won't get up. I will die on my knees, Wang Huimei cried. Really? Then you should kneel down. Lu Feng opened her hand and strode towards the factory entrance. After Lu Feng made the call in the morning, the entire audit team set off urgently. They arrived at the Tianjin factory at noon and immediately blocked the financial room. After a simple sorting, they found that many financial books had been lost, but it didn't matter. Professional audit: even if you don't have a ledger, you can still figure out the company's financial problems. The factory was sealed off, and financial personnel in the factory were questioned individually. Inventory, materials, daily consumption, wages, and inherent assets were counted. At 3:30 p.m., Zhang Quan, general manager, and Li Zianke, factory director, were officially removed from their positions, and an alarm was issued to control the 37 people currently involved in the case. And the local police initially filed a case, and the GFN Electronics major corruption case was officially established. Zhang Quan never dared to dream that he would come to investigate at noon, be dismissed in the afternoon, and the court would issue a batch of arrest documents in the evening. This speed gave him a new understanding of GFN Electronics' influence in the local area. Because it involved a major local project, this matter was not announced to the outside world. After the new year, the leaders still came to cut the ribbon as usual, but quietly dealt with these people. The next day, Lu Feng booked a flight ticket back to Shenzhen. When the plane took off, Lu Feng pulled down the window panel. He knew in his heart that such a huge GFN electronics must make changes. It has branches scattered across the country, and at the top level how many of these things can happen without management knowing, no one knows. Anti-corruption has always been a huge pain for large companies. External competitors are easy to deal with. Many large companies go to destruction after establishing a firm foothold. It is often due to internal fighting and corruption that they have no time to take into account external competition and industry changes, and eventually collapse. After the plane landed, Lu Feng got in the car and headed straight to the headquarters. The day after tomorrow, the board of directors meeting was held. John, CEO of Schroeder's Investment Group, Feng Xiao, representative of Sun Hongkai, vice president of Standard Chartered Bank, holding shares on behalf of United Capital, Goldman Sachs Group Chuang Yuntian, debt for equity swap, head of the Xiangjiang branch, and others were all present. Employee stock ownership elected board of directors agents through voting, including Wei Yandan, Zhu Lidong, Kevin, Liukan, Du Guoying and other senior managers, totaling more than 30 people. The car stopped at the entrance of the headquarters. Lu Feng got out of the car and walked upstairs. As soon as he arrived at the office, Wei Yandan walked in and said, "Mr. Lu, have you just come back?" "Well, the new factory has a big problem. The appointment and dismissal of the supervisors of the subordinate factories must be traced back to the top. A warning is given to the person in charge of the group's human resources department. From now on, the management of the subordinate factories and branches must implement a rotation system for 3 years. Next round, the performance appraisal must be more stringent." Lu Feng sat down and said solemnly. "The system in this area will be improved as soon as possible." Wei Yandan nodded and said, "Fortunately, the factory area is not officially in operation, which can be regarded as minimizing the loss. The project quality of the entire factory area will be re-examined in the future. We need to carry out study work within the group on this matter, and give them a good wake-up call. From now on, get me a huge stone at the entrance of all factories, and engrave the names of all those who dare to reach out. Every person who enters the factory will everyone is watching." Lu Feng said with a gloomy expression. "The group headquarters also wants it. This is the stone of shame." Wei Yandan solemnly said, "I will implement this matter years ago. Mr. Lu, the major overseas shareholders have already arrived. Do you want to receive them today? There is no need to receive guests. Just let them eat and drink by themselves. Tell them that our internal regulations are very strict. If we don't have this set of things, don't bother me during this period. I will write down my speech then. You will put the group in charge this year. Please compile the estimated situation into a document for me," Lu Feng ordered. "Good." Wei Yandan turned around and went out. Zhu Lidong, who had been waiting at the door, knocked on the door hurriedly. "What's the matter, Mr. Zhu?" Lu Feng asked as he raised his head and saw Zhu Lidong standing at the door. Zhu Lidong closed the door, walked over and sat down, looked at Lu Feng and said, "Mr. Lu, I want to talk to you." "What are we talking about? Market? Publicity? Or product positioning?" Lu Feng put down the folder in his hand and looked at him. "Talk about funding." Zhu Lidong mustered up a lot of courage. In fact, after the board of directors was established this year, he could submit his own plan to the board of directors. However, Zhu Lidong felt that he was doing Lu Feng a disservice by doing so. "I was disrespectful, so I decided to talk to him. Tell me, do you think the funds are too small? The bonuses are too small? Or is there something you're not good at?" Lu Feng asked. "Mr. Lu, our sales target last year was barely achieved, and the salary is not bad, but in terms of publicity, opening up channels, and bonuses, compared with our /U00260, it's really..." Zhu Lidong was hesitant to say something. Stopped and said, "I think we are the brave and capable wolves in the group, the ones who rush to the front. This is inappropriate, right? Yes, you are wolves, but you are machine wolves. What is research and development? It is gasoline, batteries, and the core driving force. Lu Feng looked at him and said, Ledong, I know you feel wronged. I understand you very well, and I never said anything to you because I thought you could understand me. Mr. Lu, Zhu Ledong felt very uncomfortable. I talked to you about money, and you talked to me about relationships. This is a bit bullying. Ledong, I know that as the sales department, you know a lot of words to win people over, and you have met all kinds of people. If I say these heart-wrenching words, you think I am trying to push the envelope again. Lu Feng. He stood up from his seat, walked to the opposite side, leaned on the office, looked at Zhu Ledong next to him and asked, let me ask you something, in which direction do you think I should drive the GFN electronics car? Make money, Zhu Ledong said and rejected it. Based on his understanding of Lu Feng, if he really wanted to make money, it would be too easy. The man in front of him who could sell a piece of straw into gold tomorrow, he didn't think so. I believe it's for money. Making money? Do you know that there is a Sanzu oral liquid recently? If I am trying to make money, believe it or not, if you give me a year, I can make a lot of money with that set of things, but why don't I do it? Because what a loss of conscience. Lu Feng stared at Zhu Ledong deeply. Build a great business. Very good, then tell me, what is greatness? Lu Feng continued to ask. Zhu Ledong's mind was blank. In his world, packaging products and selling them through advertising and marketing were what he said he was proficient in. If he had to say great, then the entire marketing department had nothing to do with greatness. It's a money-making machine. It's definitely not about making more money, right? Lu Feng asked. Zhu Ledong raised his head and looked at Lu Feng, his eyes confused, and said, then what is greatness? What is great? A great father must be able to support the whole family. A great person must be able to support more people. A great organization must be able to support a country. So, a great company, he definitely holds up an industry. Lu Feng said to him, it's not that great companies don't make money, but that companies that only make money in their eyes are definitely not close to greatness. You understand? Zhu Ledong was said to be a little confused. He agreed with Lu Feng's words very much. If he hadn't been dealing with the market for many years, he would have been absolutely convinced at this moment. However, he was still a little confused at this moment. That is, what does greatness have to do with not giving his own department a budget? I understand, but I don't understand. GFN needs to focus its budget on R/U0026D and achieve results, and we really don't have much time. With the company's equity divided up like this, what do you think will happen in the future? Lu Feng stared at him and asked. There is an old saying that if you serve others, you have to be controlled by others. Therefore, we need to know whose greatness is achieved by greatness. Zhu Ledong seemed to feel something, but he didn't understand it for a while. He felt Lu Feng's pressure on time. Zhu Ledong always felt that this young man was very calm, but at this moment, he really felt the pressure. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 979. Latest website. The original resentment in Zhu Ledong's heart was almost vented at this moment. He originally wanted to question Lu Feng, but now he felt that it was not easy for him. So we need to speed up research and development. As for the market, you are responsible for maintaining it. Now we have enough funds, and after the new year, I will go to explore overseas markets. After all, I have taken other people's money, and I want to show others the high growth. Lu Feng patted Zhu Ledong on the shoulder and sighed, this is how it is in China. They are all poor people. How much money can you make from the poor people? What's more, the salary of our company's marketing department is not low. Zhu Ledong nodded and said, but everything is afraid of comparison. When compared, some people below will feel uncomfortable. This requires you to mediate. Starting next year, let the Human Resources Department and the Finance Department hide wages and not allow anyone to inquire about each other's wages. We have gone through a very difficult time this year, and it will be even more difficult in the next 2 years. Lu Feng he looked at Zhu Lidong with a sigh and said, "It takes only half a mile to travel 100 miles. The last part of the road is often the most difficult, so I have to resist. I don't plan to open up the domestic market, including the electrical appliance city. If you do it, you are also making wedding clothes for others, right?" Zhu Lidong raised his head and looked at Lu Feng. "No one knows who is wearing the wedding dress until the last moment. What we have to do now is to make the wedding dress with peace of mind. Don't think too much, and don't slack off in your work." "I understand," Zhu Lidong stood up and said, "Then you work first, I will have a meeting with them then." After Zhu Lidong left, Lu Feng leaned on his desk without saying a word. It took him a long time to return to his seat. He originally wanted to sort out the speeches for the board of directors meeting. He paused, picked up a pile of letters from the side, and put up his pen. He wrote, "Compared with the development advantages of core integrated circuits and semiconductors in developed countries, we should pay attention to the nuclear weapons in the 21st century." Lu Feng wrote more than 10,000 words eloquently. In the letter, Lu Feng elaborated on the major technical advantages and irreplaceability of integrated circuits. He hoped that the country would pay attention to it, provide investment subsidies in this area, and let the country pay attention to talent training and industry support. After I finished writing it, I read it over and made sure it was okay. I made a few more copies and mailed them to Jin Tingting's father, the Science and Technology Committee, the predecessor of the Ministry of Science and Technology, the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission, the Academy of Sciences and other important units. In the evening, John had already gone to the restaurant to dine. He had been here for a day and was jet-lagged. He thought that Lu Feng would have to treat him to a meal, but so far he hadn't even seen him. They were all arranged in the Carlton Hotel, and the arrangements were very good. Wei Yandan had also been here a few times, but he couldn't see Lu Feng. "Go and ask Mr. Wei when Mr. Lu will meet with us," John ordered his assistant to start eating. "Thank you for investing 3.5 billion. After spending so much money, Lu Feng didn't even come to receive you. It's a bit unreasonable." After Wei Yandan received the call, she was also quite embarrassed. She talked to Lu Feng, but Lu Feng still said that he didn't have time to go, so he just turned it down. "The letter has been mailed out." Lu Feng had a casual dinner and sat smoking a cigarette. The lanterns were already starting to light up outside. There was still no hint of the New Year atmosphere in the big cities. However, in the towns and villages, various fairs and festivals were already starting to take place. Exchange. Lu Feng thought about it over and over again. If no one promoted his letters, they might not receive much attention. Now he has access to the highest person, which is Huang Youwei. After much thought, I decided to give him a call. When the call came, Huang Youwei picked up the phone before he got off work and said, "Who is this?" "Mr. Huang, it's me. Happy Chinese New Year." "I wish you a Happy New Year in advance," Lu Feng said with a smile. Huang Youwei was so familiar with Lu Feng's voice that he didn't even need to introduce himself. After thinking that he had nothing to do recently, he asked, "Okay, you can also celebrate the New Year." "I wrote a few letters to some units today. The current domestic integrated circuit market is really too weak, and the state does not provide subsidies. It will not work if it continues like this. In the future, the competition between big countries must be in science and technology. In this regard, I think we must pay more attention to it," Lu Feng said into the phone. "Didn't you just raise funds? What? You still want to get some subsidies?" Huang Youwei said angrily. "Every industry is different, who doesn't want subsidies?" "No, Let me tell you something. At present, we produce 90% of domestic TV chips. Not to mention anything else, just remote controls, picture previews on high-end TVs, large and small windows. These things are very simple, right? Why didn't it happen a few years ago? It's because TVs at that time didn't have integrated circuits or algorithms. Whatever signals they received, they would be compiled. We have already made a lot of money just from these integrated circuits. If we want to develop high-end manufacturing, we will be inseparable from future core processors, storage, and algorithms. If we don't have them ourselves, what do you think? Wait, how expensive is this thing? Lu Feng said to the phone. It's like a car. What is the price of a car abroad and what is the price in China? Huang Yowei doesn't understand these things. He doesn't even understand what integrated circuits are. But Huang Yowei knows that Lu Feng understands that industrial upgrading must eventually move closer to developed countries. Then what do you mean? If you want some subsidies, I can't do it for you. You need to communicate with the local municipal government. I remember that I gave you subsidies, right? Huang Yowei suddenly remembered that he had read the newspaper before and had an electronic message. Corporate subsidies. We have received subsidies, but I hope you can push my letter and let the higher UPS pay attention to it. It's not about whether I receive subsidies or not. I just hope that the country will pay attention to it. What's the point of me alone, woolen cloth? Huang Yowei was stunned when he heard this. He didn't expect that such selfless words could actually come out of Lu Feng's mouth. He was touched for a moment. I didn't expect that you actually have such a side. It's not in vain that I know you. As long as I can help, I will definitely help, Huang Yowei agreed. Thank you. It's everyone's responsibility to revitalize China, Lu Feng said in a middle-of-the-road manner and hung up the phone. 2 days passed by in a flash, and the first board meeting of GFN Electronics officially started. Until the day of the meeting, John did not see Lu Feng. The headquarters building was meticulously cleaned, the red carpet at the entrance was laid out on the road, surrounded by flowers on both sides, and the hostesses, doormen, security guards, etc. were all in place. At 9 o'clock in the morning, a car parked at the door one after another, and several newspapers and media were invited to take photos. Lu Feng, wearing new clothes, stood at the door with a group of senior executives to greet the guests. The car door opened, and John stepped out. The reporter took photos, walked up to Lu Feng, shook hands, and said, "Mr. Lu has been very busy recently, so I finally got to see you. There are many things to do. When I first came back, I wanted to have a meal with you, but then I thought, you gave me so much money, I shouldn't waste my time on eating," Lu Feng said with a smile. John wanted to say something more, but he could only hold it back. "Please come in." John led a group of people in under the leadership of the hostess. "Mr. Lu, long time no see," Zhuang Yuntian got out of the car and walked towards Lu Feng with a smile on his face. He stepped forward, shook hands and said, "He's getting more and more handsome. Where can I find it? Why don't you live a cool life? Please come in. By the way, let me tell you, Wall Street companies have no ill intentions towards you. What Lambert means recently is that we can play together as much as possible. There is no need to be so tense. In the past half year, you have also seen, it's not good for anyone, being friendly makes you rich." "I understand," Lu Feng said nothing. Feng Xiao's car had just stopped. Before the doorman could open the door, he pushed open the door and ran over. The entourage behind him couldn't keep up. "Are you busy these days? I wanted to have dinner with you," Feng Xiao asked enthusiastically. Although he was dressed in a suit and leather shoes, the young man's frivolity was still etched on his face. "Yeah, I'm a bit busy. You go up first. There will be a meeting later." In 20 minutes, Lu Feng finally finished receiving everyone, turned around and walked upstairs. The meeting would officially start at 9:30. The floor of the huge conference room was covered with carpets, and decorative flowers were placed on each table. Everyone found their seats and sat down. Wei Yandan, Zhu Lidong, Liukan and other shareholder representatives sat in the back. Microphones were already arranged on the stage. After everyone took their seats, Lu Feng waved his hand and motioned for the host to start quickly. It was a bit too late. Good morning, dear shareholders and shareholder representatives. It is a great honor to preside over the first board meeting of GFN Electronics Group. We are here to envision the future with passion. In the new year, we have made new journeys and implemented Reuter Finn joins our family. The host talked for 5 minutes and finally said, first of all, let us give warm applause to welcome Mr. Lu Feng, founder and chairman of GFN Electronics, to the stage to speak. There was a round of applause. Lu Feng stood up and walked onto the stage, looked down and said, the title chairman seems inappropriate from this moment on. Since we want to go global, we must change. This year Schroeder's investment, the joining of the group, is recognition of our future, and I believe we will not disappoint the expectations of all shareholders. This year, we have mainly focused on exploring overseas markets. Among them, the Thai market and African market, including Singapore and Malaysia, which are under development, have strong vitality. The domestic market is basically stable. At present, Wiputa TV Front 11, the monthly sales volume ranks second in the country, only less than 700,000 units behind Changhong TV. VCD occupies 60% of the market share, and pagers have also ushered in a major market explosion. At the same time, we are also unswervingly engaged in research and development. In the field of technology research and development, we are currently #1 in the country. Latest website.